Please rise. Please rise in recognition of the class of 2020.
Parents, grandparents, honored guests, dignitaries, members of the Lincoln Prep Advisory Council, colleagues, friends, members of the pioneering first graduating class, the class of 2020. On behalf of the faculty and staff, I am very pleased and honored to welcome you to Lincoln Preparatory Academy's first inaugural commencement ceremony. Today marks a major milestone in the history of our classical school. Please remain standing as Dr. Malachi Rodriguez plays our national anthem, followed by Mr. Tope, who will lead us in the choral anthem with Miss Sarah Horrigan.
Seniors, please rise. Friends and colleagues, please join us in singing our traditional choral anthem.
Gaudeam musigitur, juvenestum suros. Gaudeam musigitur, juvenestum suros. Post iucundam juventutem, post malestrum senectutem, nos habebit humus, habebit humus. Vivat Academia, vivat professores, vivat Academia, vivat professores, vivat membrum quod libet, vivant membrum cune libet, semper sint in flore, semper sint in flore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tope, Ms. Horrigan. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Ms. Sumi Thomas, a representative from Lincoln Preparatory Academy's Advisory Council, and a proud parent of Mr. Dylan Thomas, a rising 8th grade student in our middle school, who was recently recognized with the Fulcrum Award. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Thomas.
To our graduates, families of our graduates, Headmaster Mitchell, and to our wonderful faculty here today. I have admired individuals who have been able to shape the way society thinks about the most contentious issues of the day. The impact of writings of individuals such as Augustine, Shakespeare, Jane Austen, C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, among many others, demonstrate the ability of individuals to influence the public debate and change the way society approaches issues. Viewed in this light, much of history can be seen as this battle of ideas where individuals grapple with the most contentious issues of the day. Burke and Payne, they challenged each other. Madison and Hamilton constantly went back and forth. Lincoln debated Douglas. These are all testaments of the power of individuals and their ideas to create lasting, monumental, generational shifts in their societies. When Lincoln Preparatory Academy first opened its doors, 170 students entered in. Now, as we celebrate our first graduating class, over 600 walk daily through its threshold. And there are 17 of you that are leaving us today, and it is bittersweet. For so many of us, this is not just another school. It is a community of like-minded individuals who hold the same ideals that we want instilled in our children. Graduates, your teachers, your headmaster, they have instilled in you the ability to think big, out-of-the-box ideas, to create the kind of change I was speaking of, change that can shape generations. Through your class discussions, debates, lessons learned on and off the playing field, you have been taught here to constantly seek the good, the true, and the beautiful. Because the virtues that define this Great Hearts of community, they have been etched in your hearts and in your minds. You, the class of 2020, you are the first to leave these hallowed halls. You set the tone of who this school is and what the world out there can expect from its graduates. And from what I know about you, the things I've observed about you, those things I have seen on a daily basis, there is a high bar that has been set by every class that now will follow in each of your footsteps. So I want you to remember this in closing. Truth, it does not change from generation to generation, but context, culture, the structure of arguments, they will consistently change. But you have been called to be a voice in your generation because you have been taught how to engage, how to have thoughtful, articulate discourse. You have been taught to passionately represent the truth in both your words and in your actions. So when you leave here, know that you leave here with the power to shape, to change the world around you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for those words and for the classical school that you and your family love so dearly and that you have served since our very beginning. We are excited to see Dylan on this stage in May of 2025. I now have the privilege of presenting 5 awards and 2 high honors to the class of 2020. When I call your name, seniors, please join Mr. Tope at the diploma table to receive your award in recognition. The Lincoln Award is given to 2 seniors each year who embody the core values of Lincoln Preparatory Academy in an exemplary, outstanding, and excellent manner. This award, named after Abraham Lincoln, is among the Academy's highest honors. The seniors must stand above others in humility, collegiality, and dedicated learning. This year's Lincoln Award recipients are Miss Maleka Kariuki and Mr. Joey Petrone. The Washington Award is given to one senior each year who, like George Washington, significantly contributed to the maintenance and preservation of good character in our classical school, particularly during Lincoln Prep's founding years, whether in the classroom or beyond in their extracurricular endeavors. This year's Washington Award recipient is Miss Sienna Jarrett. The O'Connor Award is given to one senior each year who, like Flannery O'Connor, significantly demonstrated excellent written or rhetorical craftsmanship in the senior thesis project. This year's O'Connor Award recipient is Miss Lauren Hurley. The Athena Award is given to one senior each year who, like wise Athena, significantly demonstrated philosophical virtue in pursuit of classical liberal education across the arts and sciences and fine arts. This year's Athena Award recipient is Miss Zoe Kim. The Aeneas Award is given to one senior each year who, like Virgil's heroic Aeneas, significantly contributed to the greatness of our classical school and who is most likely to transmit that greatness with humility and magnanimity to other communities and future generations. This year's Aeneas Award recipient is Mr. Arya Fares. The senior valedictorian is the recipient of the highest honors that the Academy can confer upon a Lincoln Prep student. Academic GPA through the senior year among students who have been at the school at least since the beginning of 10th grade is the primary criteria for selecting the valedictorian. Personal conduct and positive participation in the school's culture and activities are also considered. Based upon these considerations and the input of the Lincoln Prep staff and faculty, I am honored to recognize Ms. Zoe Kim as the valedictorian for the class of 2020. I am also honored to recognize Mr. Tiger Bunch and Mr. Arya Fares as co-salutatorians for the class of 2020. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Kim, Mr. Bunch, and Mr. Fares for their outstanding academic performance, character, high distinctions, and positive participation in our classical school's culture and activities. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce our inaugural commencement speaker, Professor Timothy Fuller. Due to the impacts of COVID-19, we asked Professor Fuller to pre-record his address to the class of 2020 so as not to travel from Colorado to Arizona and thus endanger his health and safety. We ask that you turn your attention to the back of the gym to view a recording of this address. I have known Professor Fuller for now almost 25 years, and it is my honor to welcome him virtually to our commencement. Professor Fuller finished his PhD at Johns Hopkins, his MA also at Johns Hopkins, and his BA with distinction at Kenyon College. I met Professor Fuller at Colorado College as an undergraduate studying classics, history, and politics, as well as Renaissance studies. And without further ado, our inaugural commencement address.
Education in Western tradition ever since his undergraduate days at Colorado College. I also want to say that I feel at home in your company. It is a familiar environment, albeit only virtually for the time being. Like you, I have been fortunate to attend a great public high school, which was devoted to the study of the classics. The best that has been followed instead. And I am currently on the board of directors of the school very like yours in Colorado Springs. In the course of study, I encountered the heroic struggles of Achilles and Hector, the voyage of self-discovery of Odysseus, and the pilgrimage of Aeneas, of the wreckage of Troy to the founding of Rome. And honesty was an adventure into uncharted waters and eventual return to where you came from. As C.S. Eliot says in the fourth of his book, when ends wherever began, always in the place for the first time. Aeneas adventures to a new land, not to return as he came, but to recreate in new terms what he has carried with him from the old tradition. You can see that these both express fundamental features of the new tradition. There is movement into new intellectual lands, but aided by the resources that you carry with you to provide balance and practical judgment, a condition of both tradition and innovation, and unrehearsed intellectual adventure. Unrehearsed because we cannot know in advance all that we will become. You have now completed one vital stage of this intellectual journey in preparation for the next stage. The commencement is both a beginning and an ending, and it is not unusual to feel some trepidation in the undersupport environment. Yet, commencement does not so much mean leaving where you've been as it means making use of what you've gained in new circumstances, carrying with you something of the highest influence, keeping it alive in situations which will not always be friendly to the life of the mind. That capacity to be both committed and capable of detachment from purely passionate emotional response. A great school, and that is what you do, combines the study of the great expressions of the human spirit with the cultivation of standards of judgment. This means, of course, gaining knowledge and discipline of careful and accurate study. And even if you do not retain all the details, as to be the moment of what you have learned, to have entered into the ways of thinking and writing of the best minds, to have acquired standards, implicitly or explicitly, which will stay with you, even if you do not always recall exactly where you first encountered them. The ability to understand alternative points of view, even when you may not agree with them, to make arguments for what you believe while fully aware of the objections that may be made to those arguments, to criticize the views of others by focusing on the strongest on the weakest forms of their arguments. This to elevate the inquiry into what's best for us and to achieve that degree of moderation and carefulness which Aristotle told us is the mark of a morally serious person. Knowledge we need, of course, but we also need judgments and practical wisdom. By this I mean the capacity to decide what to do in circumstances where inevitably different possible courses of action present themselves. and thus my passion tends to drive out reflection. In your study of Socratic dialogues, you can see that dialogue in esteemed sense is a technique for creating common effort among the participants, where passion and intensity is seen by profound fire. But the question, for example, is what's justice, and someone offers a definition to begin the inquiry. In dialogue, becomes the responsibility of all involved to test that definition, considering it independently of the person who goes in, in the quest for potential agreement, and failing that, to continue the inquiry indefinitely. Different voices come together by a common quest. The alternative is persuasive speech making, in which the speaker proposes to end the dialogue in favor of the aim in search of victory. This too is a natural part of the human condition, the contest between dialogue and rhetoric. The quest for the good, the true, and the beautiful is the motivation not for replacing the negative, but that is impossible, but for countering the passionate intensity which pervades much of our interaction. The quest to understand the fully what we understand fully in love is to respond to our awareness of what we call the task of human beings to fulfill, to complete their humanity. In short, you have been invited to enter the world where we're living, to take your place in the conversation and respecting what is best for the human condition. One could say it's the entry into experiencing the fullness of what human life can be. To enjoy for a time the leisure to pursue such fundamental questions, and to continue that pursuit as you go off for your studies in college or university, is a special grace. Much of life is involved in impracticalities that go on, and of course we cannot neglect those things. The precondition of living well is to satisfy the needs of life itself. On the other hand, it is important to remember that to satisfy those limited needs is the staging ground for the path to higher pursuits which distinguish the whole human life. Really to exist is not enough. Thus, you are invited to take your place in your tradition. You can trace back Plato's founding as a canon. We know that there have always been places for the women set aside in instant practical activities that take precedence in much of our existence. We are both practical and intellectual. And you are fortunate to have studied in school where this is understood. The Western tradition preserves by remembering the Socratic dialogue through time, maintaining spaces in society for it to be experienced. We care about what property is relevant for us here and now. The pandemic is dramatic and relevant both to living itself and to the world. But we neglected our critical relevance of that which is not bound to a particular time and place. The great 20th century scholar and theologian C.S. Lewis was addressing his students at Oxford in 1939 as, with the outbreak of World War II, the lights of Europe were going out. The question was, why in this emergency should we be studying Renaissance drama or culture? Lewis's response was that if we wait for the world's problems to be solved, we will never get to them. In short, the courage to pursue real learning will always be tested by the threats and practical urgencies that always surround us. To be committed to improving the conditions under which we live is indispensable, but we should not have a narrow view of what that entails. To survive is urgent and immediate, but to live for what is highest and noblest must ultimately justify survival. To be human is to know this even as we are tempted to avoid. I first began to think about these things when I was at the stage of my education that you are in. That was the beginning of the thoughts of the sheriff. I continued to pursue them, in my undergraduate days at the classical college, where I committed myself to develop liberal arts tradition. I have been attempting to do so ever since. I have learned that the tradition of the has to be defended because the temptations to discount or discount will always be with us. Despite that, it continues to be available to us over 25 centuries. Even though I have not traveled a long way from myself, I have not forgotten what it was like to be at its beginning. That initiation is still with me, and especially because I have the fortune to celebrate with you, who will carry forth the torch of the into the next generation. I commend you all and congratulate you that you take the next step in your rigorous, influential adventure.
We are thankful and deeply humbled that Professor Fuller delivered our inaugural commencement address remotely. We are also thankful for our assistant headmaster, Mr. Tope, who will now confer diplomas upon our graduates. Mr. Tope.
Osvaldo A. Contreras. Erica Amodio. Dakota Betancourt, in absentia. Tiger Bunch, in absentia. Olivia Ironman. Aria Fares. Caleb Frazier, in absentia. Tatum Gulas. Toby Hammond. Lauren Hurley. Sienna Jarrett. Malika Karaoke. Zoe Kim. Joanna Lopez Tejeda. Joanna Morella. Joseph Patron. Aisha Zahor. Graduates of Lincoln Prep, please stand. You may now turn your tassels from right to left. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in acknowledging the class of 2020. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Zoe Kim, valedictorian, who will say a few words.
Good morning. Good morning. Honored guests, families, friends, educators, and of course, the class of 2020. Welcome to Commencement. Montaigne once said that the world is but a school of inquiry. Our class has exemplified this statement. Over the past 4 years, we discovered and devoted ourselves to our passions and have grown immensely as a result. Whether they be physics or theater, we have become ardently devoted to them. Today, we celebrate our triumphs, our achievements, and our victories as individuals and as a class. Throughout the years, we have become a unified class. Together, we have taken initiative to exceed academically and as leaders. Willa Cather wrote in My Antonia, "There seemed to be nothing to see. No fences, no creeks or trees, no hills or fields. If there was a road, I could not make it out in the faint starlight. There was nothing but land. Not a country at all but the material out of which countries are made. There was no path laid out in front of us step by step, so we paved our own way. Along the way, I made friends who inspire me and teachers who've been my mentors. So many people who shaped my life and my fellow classmates' lives into the future. Graduation marks the end of yet another extraordinary chapter of our lives. The next chapter is unwritten and incomplete. Unlike an English book, we cannot skip through the pages. But every passing day is another page we write ourselves. I am confident that we have been given all of the paper and ink we need to write our own stories. And with the love and support of our families, friends, and fellow graduates, our stories will become bestsellers. So, as we all begin writing our own stories, let us all remember the times we've been residents of Grover's Corner in our town. Played along the Great Plain with Jim and Antonia. Sailed a raft with Huck and Jim. Fought alongside Henry V in the Battle of Agincourt. outwitted the Cyclops with Odysseus, been students of Plato's Academy. Most importantly, let us all remember how they impacted our lives and taught us valuable life lessons. So, to Nick Carraway, who in The Great Gatsby stayed by Jay Gatsby's side, even after hearing the false rumors and claims that were being made about him. We're that aren't always true, but it's up to us to choose whether or not we want to believe them. To Sidney Carton, who in The Great Gatsby, who in The Tale of Two Cities taught me that it's never too late to change and become the person you want to become. Sometimes we lose sight of what is right and wrong, but in the end, it's okay to ask for help from those around you. To Santiago, who in The Old Man and Sea taught me that having grit in life will take you far. It's easy to give up in life when it gets hard, but Santiago taught me that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. To Atticus Finch, who in To Kill a Mockingbird taught me that doing the right thing always trumps what is wrong, even when everyone is against you. Our education is our foundation. The great books are pillars of leadership, integrity, and contemplation. They help ingrain truth in our minds, beauty within our souls, and goodness in our hearts. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." I believe that each of us graduating today has the power to do just that. What role we play in our collective futures is entirely up to us. I am confident each of us graduating today has the capability to do something great, whether we choose to or not. Before I end, I extend my sincere gratitude to my educators. Their endless patience and valuable guidance means more to me than they know. They endowed us of the gift of literacy, computational skills, and citizenships. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you to my fellow graduates. They made each day worthwhile and Monday mornings a little bit easier. Your company, my friends, will be sorely missed. However, I love hearing of our success. Let's give them a hand. Words fall short for expressing my heartfelt gratitude to my parents, Todd and Stacy Kim. I profusely thank them for their unwavering love and support over these 18 years. They believed in me when I never believed in myself. Mom, Dad, I want to thank you for giving me the best advice, believing in me, and just being you. You taught me to go after what I want and set goals and accomplish them. Once again, congratulations, class of 2020, and best of luck.
Well, thank you, Ms. Kim, for those inspirational remarks. And congratulations again to the class of 2020 on this momentous occasion. You should be proud of your accomplishments and the example that you have established as the pioneering first graduates of Lincoln Preparatory Academy. 400 years ago this summer, another set of pioneers, the Pilgrims, prepared to embark on their travels across the Atlantic Ocean. Discontented, they chose to leave their familiar homes in England, departing in hope of a greater freedom in Holland, only to encounter additional troubles there. Eager to pursue happiness unencumbered by difficulties, they prepared for a great voyage to the New World in America. Aptly provisioned, this band of men, women, and children, smaller than the number of people in this gymnasium, 102 combined passengers to be exact, left the old world for the new, sailing in the Mayflower from Plymouth Sound in September with a prosperous wind, and sighting land at Cape Cod 65 days later in November of 1620. Alexis de Tocqueville, the greatest observer of and commentator on our democratic republic, characterized the Puritan founding among the many American foundings in the following way. A first foundation, premier fondement, a point of departure for the origins of American democracy. Many great roads lead back to this humble founding, and so the story endures. William Bradford, the second governor of the colony, captured the ethos well in his history. Quote, all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulties, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage, end quote. I retell the story of the Pilgrims for two reasons. One is personal, the other symbolic. Back in the spring of 2015, in another season of my life, I was at an academic conference in Plymouth, Massachusetts, presenting research on the idea of liberal education in Henry David Thoreau's masterpiece, Walden. On a rainy Saturday morning, my wife and daughter decided to walk down to see Plymouth Rock, while I went to a presentation on a statesman who I had written about in my dissertation. After the talk, I providentially met Dr. Rob Jackson, who is the Chief Academic Officer of Great Hearts Academies and founding director of the Institute for Classical Education. He shared a little bit about Great Hearts' mission, gave me his card, and by the end of the summer, I had moved my family across the country to Chandler, Arizona, to begin the humbling endeavor of teaching and leading in our classical network. Having not been in Plymouth on that April weekend, I would most likely not be standing before you today as headmaster. Symbolically, our first graduating class, like these Pilgrim forebears, are at an ending, which is at the same time a beginning. The 20th century poet T.S. Eliot put it this way in the Four Quartets, quote, what we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from, end quote. Our graduates are men and women who have been shaped by choices, accidents, and mores at Lincoln Prep in its founding period. Their character, individually and collectively, bears the marks of a classical liberal education, of moral and intellectual virtue. They have exceeded expectations in becoming graduates of our classical school. Philosophically minded, mature, virtuous adults, ready for what the world in the 21st century presents to them as well-rounded, thoughtful citizens and human beings. I could not be more hopeful for their successes in the next stage of their lives, because they have received a real education, arguably one of the finest educations available to them in this day and age. I am confident that they received a finer public education than my generation received, and I am humbled by their achievements, and I am inspired by them. These are adults I want my own kids to grow up to be like. To be blessed with the singular opportunity to be part of the founding of a school allows for many firsts. The class of 2020 was first to graduate, first to win athletic championships, first to travel to Washington, D.C. on a senior trip, first to travel to delightful and ancient Southwest Santa Fe to see Los Alamos National Laboratory and benefit from Socratic Seminar at St. John's College, first to study humane letters from start to finish, first to study humane letters in 9th grade, first to promote from 8th grade into the high school, first to influence the culture of the senior commons, first to set an example for underclassmen and women as mentors, first to be taught by teachers of the year, first to choose senior course options, first to finish the entire sequence of honors science courses, first to take honors French, honors Spanish, honors ancient Greek, first to perform in a choir in evenings of fine arts, first to perform in a choir and first to perform Shakespeare on this stage, first to prepare to perform Sophocles' tragedy, Antigone, in Greek masks on this stage, first to select a senior quote, first to select a senior motto, first from our school to be admitted into colleges and universities, both local and around the country, first to design the senior class of 2020 crest, first to study Euclidean geometry, trigonometry, economics, algebra, and calculus, first to paint senior tessellations, and so on. These firsts have allowed them to participate in the work of founding Lincoln Prep, bringing our shared Great Hearts mission to life, embodying core values, and achieving a school vision of excellent curriculum, extracurriculars, athletic and non-athletic, and leisure. As we take stock in this moment and gain perspective on the larger whole of their attainments at Lincoln Prep, it is important to summarize the facts and present a short apology for classical liberal education. The goal of a classical liberal arts education is human self-understanding. To think about, to imagine, to explore our lives in the present from the bequest of a great civilizational inheritance is, as the old Roman philosopher Seneca exhorts us in his famous Epistle 88, an activity worthy of free and responsible human beings. In the West, classical works and authors comprise this tradition, with the emergence of a culture of literacy in classical antiquity. In this civilized world, one enduring for no less than 25 centuries, educated men and women inhabited, engaged, and explored worlds of poets, philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, artists, historians, statesmen, rhetoricians, dramatists, artists, prophets, letter writers, biographers, and essayists. To know the Greek classics, for example, was to be able to speak about and to write about and enjoy, to explore Homer's epics, the lyric stanzas of Archilochus, philosophy in Plato's Republic and Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, the histories of Xenophon, Polybius, Herodotus, and Thucydides, Archimedes' geometry, the masterful tragedies of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, as well as Aristophanes' comedies, the Hebrew prophets and poetry, as well as gospels and letters of the New Testament, and so on. A man or woman deeply educated in the classics could effortlessly refer to Pericles' funeral oration or Lysias' defense in the matter of the olive stump, at once able to talk about philology and words with care, analyze a work's grammar or logic, know etymologies, and suggest disinterested arguments about the place of texts in the broader tradition of literature and thinking. Think about what is present to your mind now. Classical education seeks to pull out of the present to what is elevating and timeless, to what is in the ancient past, or what is on the horizon, or in the skies above, or below beneath the surface. In the digital information age, we are pulled often in the opposite direction, to the fluvia of what is immediately present. The great thinker Ernst Robert Curtius argued in his 1953 magnum opus, Europäische Literatur und lateinische Mittelalter, European literature in the Latin Middle Ages, that literature, including many classics studied in our curriculum, possess a freedom because these masterpieces can be present to readers in every age. He explains, quote, "The timeless present, which is an essential characteristic of literature, means that the literature of the past can always be active in that of the present. So, Homer and Virgil, Virgil and Dante, Plutarch and Seneca and Shakespeare, Shakespeare and Goethe's Gott von Berichtien, Euripides and Racine's Iphigenia. There is here an inexhaustible wealth of possible interrelations. It is a boundless realm," end quote. Our graduates have learned how to be free, happy, and responsible in this so-called boundless realm and to discover worlds within such amazing worlds. The substantive capacity to converse in languages and literatures, to listen to a conversation among these authors, and to learn about oneself, the world, and others is essential to a liberal education. When pursued well, this activity emancipates us from the present moment to reflect upon, judge, and pass on the achievements of a civilization, however complex or challenging those achievements are for students. In some, hearts and minds are made more capacious in pursuit of the trivium and the quadrivium, which fosters moral and intellectual virtue when buttressed by true joy, rigor, and high expectations. Classical liberal arts education does not exist as an abstraction. though one of the reasons why it persists is the perennial attempt to say what it means in each generation. More important than the best philosophical generations or poetic images are the educational activities that give life to liberal education. The core of liberal learning is the transaction between teachers and students. It takes place in different places that are set apart for its purposes, such as the family, schools, and colleges and universities. It is also a lifelong pursuit. One does not achieve liberal education by reading a classic once, but by wrestling with it over and over and over and over again in the seasons of our lives. Teachers are authoritative in guiding students to understand the value of such ideas and institutions within a given tradition. In this activity, school leaders, such as teachers of teachers and students, like we have here at Lincoln Prep, must be devoted with a single-minded will to leveraging time, space, and purpose as the critical resources in this shared endeavor. One outcome is a curriculum fitting to a place of learning. Another is the development of integrated students and an enterprise that cultivates the gifts, talents, and growth of real teachers. In hindsight, my students and colleagues have been happiest with enjoying fruits of such an abundant sowing. While it is always valuable to articulate, defend, and advance goals of liberal education from time to time, particularly when education is challenged by the siren songs of relevance and socialization, I also firmly believe that liberal education often emerges in its best moments for the sake of itself. At Lincoln Prep, we have sought to create thinking environments that do just this for students. Humane pursuits in the liberal arts help our students and teachers to seek truth, goodness, and beauty. These pursuits form habits of mind that remain with students for their lives, virtues like answerable courage. The value of liberal education exists too in a search. One of my very favorite authors, Walker Percy, put this beautifully in a novel, The Moviegoer. Quote, "What is the nature of this search, you ask? The search is what anyone would undertake if he were not sunk in the everydayness of his own life. To become aware of the search is to be onto something. Not to be onto something is to be in despair. In searching for truth, goodness, and beauty, we live reflectively. Our character and intellect are made magnanimous. Our lives and minds are emancipated, and our world is civilized. To preserve such an education, to enhance it when possible, to guide students and teachers to discover it here in our place is both rare and awesome." In conclusion, Corbett and Connors, in their Classical Education for the Modern Student, 4th edition, remind us that the classical rhetoricians thought that a conclusion should do 4 things. First, inspire the audience with a favorable opinion of themselves and an unfavorable opinion of those opposed to them. Second, amplify the points made by the speaker. Third, to rouse appropriate emotions in the audience listeners. And fourth, restate in a summary way the facts and arguments. Today, you have been inspired by the example of the class of 2020, with the timeless and enduring mission, vision, and core values that they have sought at Lincoln Prep, and with noble words speaking to a humble, Great Hearts Academy Prep School in its founding. My remarks modestly aim to amplify and extend the points made by our other speakers today, Ms. Thomas, Ms. Kim, and Dr. Fuller. The emotions that this closing hope to seek to cultivate mix feelings of pleasantness that you desire in this special occasion with the energy that we have in celebration of our seniors. To that end, I hope you are pleased with the class of 2020, energized by their example, festive on this morning's milestone, upbeat and positive about their short and long-term future, and proud of their beautiful accomplishments. Graduates, in the spirit of your embarkation into a new world, onto waves of an undulating sea, fraught now more than ever with that which calls forth men and women of character, requiring no less than humility and magnanimity. Be those who create conditions that bring out the best in others and in yourselves. You are provisioned well by your local classical school and by the very best wishes of the Lincoln community. You have answerable courage. So now, go and do great things. In closing, I honor the class of 2020 with a short reading from the ending of Eliot's Four Quartets. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between two waves of the sea. Quick now, here now, always, a condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything. And all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, when the tongues of flame are enfolded into the crown knot of fire, and the fire and the rose are one. Thank you, class of 2020, and go Lakewood. Now for a few directions as we come to the end of our commencement ceremony. After we sing the alma mater, Ms. Kim and I will pronounce the official end to the school year with the ringing of the school bell. Our faculty and staff will lead the recessional down the center aisle into the courtyard garden. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until our young men and women have made their way into the breezeway and downstairs atrium in the classroom building for light refreshments and final goodbyes. We ask you to continue social distancing and be safe joining them in the atrium. We invite our seniors to wave to Lincoln Prep families in the drive line who will drive past the east entrance starting at 12:15 p.m. I also want to take a brief moment to thank our parent service organization and Home Depot who helped to provide some of our decorations throughout the program today. So thank you to the PSO and thank you very much to our neighbors for helping to put on this event. I now welcome Miss Sarah Horgan to lead us in singing the Lincoln Prep alma mater, Fare Thee Well, together as a community. Please rise.
So thanks to this small phenomenal bachelor program, as you guys can continue to get used to the tune, I would encourage you guys to sing with me. Very well, very well. If I never ever see you anymore, very well, very well. I'll see you on the other shore. I also together. going home. I'm going home. I'll see you on the other shore.
We'll go lightning. Miss Kim, are you prepared and ready to ring the school bell to close out the school year? Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, graduates, it's with great joy, happiness, and satisfaction that I declare the 5th school year of Lincoln Preparatory Academy officially closed.